Come on in, everyone. Come on in because we are here for Married at First Sight, Season 18, Episode 8, y'all. And we are here to review this episode. They are calling it a chef kiss. A chef kiss and a rude kiss. I'm trying to remember what was the rude kiss. Maybe I'll remember it as I go through this review. But I know what the chef kiss was. That was when David cooked that food for Michelle, and he was like, tastes very good, a chef kiss. But I'm trying to remember who had the rude kiss. So I'll have to remember that as we go along. But like my thumbnail said, I'm titling it, She Got Swag. She got swag, and you know that's a question mark. You know I'm being facetious. You know I ain't for real. Because once again, y'all, let's have a little bit of a Camille fashion show. And I want to tell you at the end of this fashion show, do we really believe that Camille got swag? Girl, I don't know why we on another episode of Swagless Camille and why we still even using this word, but I'm going to keep going with it because she's going with it. She pulling back words from my era, which means I don't even think the young people say swag no more. That's what y'all been telling me. So she really outdated. But this girl, we still having conversations about swag. We're going to really get into that as well, but I'm really done with Camille. I can't believe y'all that Camille started off as my number one. She really did. I mean, I'm still rooting for her and Thomas because I think that in the end, I think she's going to come around. I think she's going to come around. She was on the after party. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what she said on the after party, but this was her outfit on the after party. Another swagless outfit. Girl, go home. Stasha was on the after party. That's who she need to talk to about getting some swag. Stasha. Remember Stasha from San Diego? She's on the after party. Remember she dated Nate. She's still single. Ain't dating. Girl, you should just worked it out with Nate. That's what I said back then. Any of y'all were watching my show back when Nate and she were on, I told her to work it out with Nate. And now when she came on this episode, she was saying she wished she had listened to him more and considered his feelings more. It's too late. It's too late. Nobody's perfect that comes on this show, but some people come on the show and it becomes workable, right? It's like no one's perfect. Everyone that's come on here has a few flaws and, blemishes and all these other kind of things. But some people you can work with them. And Nate was one of those people I felt that you could work with. He wasn't all the way there, but he would have needed a woman who wanted to work with him. And Stasha at the time, she didn't want to work with him. And now she's coming back here saying she wished she would have been more patient. It's too late. It's really too late. But let's move on. We're not going to talk about San Diego. We'll talk about that a little bit as, the show progresses because the after party was Camille. EKG was on the after party this week. Carla was on the after party this week. Who else? And David. So along the way, I'll be filling in a little bit of the blanks around what they said. Carla told some interesting stories. But now that I mentioned Carla, let's start with them. Let's start with Carla first. So first of all, we started with Carla. And Carla says, I need to sage this house. I need to sage the house for these guests coming over. This is our new house. So she starts turning on the stove, lighting up her sage and everything. And then next thing you know, what we have Juan in the bathroom scrubbing the toilet. And we kind of hear Juan low-key complaining. Really what Juan was doing, he was low-key complaining. He was complaining that he had to clean the toilet. So Juan was kind of low-key, complaining about that he was cleaning the toilet. Juan's the type of person where, because he really don't do much, whenever he does something, he wants a gold star and he wants you to clap. Y'all, I didn't know anybody like that. Some of y'all might be married to a couple of men like that, whereby they really don't do too much. And then when they do something, they want a big old standing ovation. That's Juan. Juan wants a big old standing ovation for cleaning the toilet. Now, I know what they're trying to spin the toilet around is the fact that Juan was cleaning the toilet and Carla wasn't doing nothing. I really know what they're trying to paint Carla. They're trying to paint Carla as a gold digger and she's lazy. I see it happening all the time. But one thing you'll notice about Carla is Carla keeps her mouth shut. All that time where Juan was running around talking about he had to clean the toilet and Carla was saging the house, you didn't hear Carla talking about, I saged the house, I decorated for the party, I got the food for the party, and guess what? Everybody that came to the party were Carla's friends. Did anybody see anybody? I think Juan had a brother there. That's it. So Carla had to get the guests there, send out the guest invites. That's why her friend was hot talking about Carla up here inviting me at the last minute, because at the last minute, Carla had to run around and find a bunch of people to come to the party because Juan was only going to have one person there. So Carla had to sage the house. She had to decorate the house. She had to get the food. And she had to invite all the guests. And what Juan wanted was a gold star for cleaning the toilet. And what Carla told him the after party was, I sure did make him clean that toilet because he's the one that blows it up. Poof. There it is. He be blowing up the toilet. So Carla said, listen, he want to blow up the toilet, then he can clean the toilet. So then, you get all that going on. So Carla then, we see later on, Juan's also complaining about the fact that he was the only one that was cleaning up after the party. I see what you producers are doing. You're really trying to paint Carla as a lazy Carla and a gold digger. And because she doesn't speak up, Juan looks like he does everything. We already know Juan don't do nothing, because let me tell you why I know we know. First of all, when Juan met Carla, he said, what if I leave dishes in the sink? Will you do the dishes? Carla said, I'll do them once or twice, then I'm going to make you do them. Juan didn't like that. You know why? Because Juan likes to leave dishes in the sink. When we went to go visit Juan's house, when Carla saw Juan's house originally, did you see all the dirty dishes in the sink? So I know they want to paint Juan like he's the one running around doing all these parties. No, what's really happening is Carla's drawing boundaries on Juan. Carla's not doing for Juan what Juan wants Carla to do. That's why I know this couple isn't going to work, because they're not really giving each other what they want. Juan wants a person who's going to be there to look out for him all the time, do whatever he wants to do. He wants their whole life to revolve around him. We know this because that's what the father said. The father said, how do you make your money and what are you going to do for Juan? We find out that this is also the way the mother does, Juan's mother does with her dad. That's what he told us. When Carla sat down and said, hey, what is it that makes you happy? Really, the question she was asking was, what's your love language? That's what she was asking. What is your love language? Juan clearly said his love language is acts of service. I could have guessed that, because whenever Juan's telling what Carla needs to do, it's always an act of service. That's his love language. Carla's acts of service is physical touch and words of affirmation. Juan has told us that, hey, I'm not good with no physical touch and I'm not good with no words of affirmation. Neither one of them. But what I still want is I still want the acts of service. This is a standoff. This is a complete standoff. Juan's not getting what he wants and Carla's not getting what she wants. But Carla said she's making a concerted effort to be different in this relationship. She's saying that in the past, she typically folded into the guy. She gave them everything the guy wanted, but then what would happen is she wouldn't get anything in return. I think Carla's trying something different with Juan and dating differently. And what she's trying to do is she's trying to draw boundaries, because what she's saying is Juan willing to meet me halfway? And what Juan isn't really willing to do is meet her halfway. I see areas where Carla's definitely holding back. I do see it. I see where she's holding back. But what I get with Carla is she's holding back for a reason, because what she's done is she's sniffed out the very thing that I've sniffed out about Juan. And what Juan wants is he wants a woman that's always going to do what he wants to do, be up when he wants to be up, be down when he wants to be down. You see, Juan wants to act like he's this free-flowing guy, always wants to have fun. But then yet he always talks about how he's so busy and he got a lot. He's got to go to the gym. He's got to go to work after the gym. He's got to do this. So the question always remained, Well, when do we have any quality time, Juan? Well, Juan is saying we'll have quality time when I let us have quality time. Because when Juan's ready to party, he's there and he wants to draw you in. But after that, he wants to push you away and he wants you to find something else to do because right now I don't need you. But once I need you, I want you to come right back to me. That's who Juan is. That's who Juan is. He says he says he can be a little bit on the wild side. And so he needs a woman or a wife that's going to check him every once in a while because he can say some wild shit. That's what Juan said. So in one way, he says he wants a person to check him or give him boundaries. But in another way, he don't like the boundaries that Carla's drawing. He doesn't like them at all. When the friend came to the toga party and she started asking Juan, "What do you compliment her or anything?" Juan says, "No, I don't compliment her because I'm too busy." He says, "I'm too busy with my job and going to the gym." But you know what he ain't too busy for? To get an act of service from Carla. That's what he's not too busy for. For sure. And then what he did was when the friend told him, "Well, maybe you ought to give her a little bit more compliments, say some nice things to her." He said, "Well, maybe I would have done it if she would have told me. I can't read her mind." There go that excuse again for Juan. You ever notice Juan's first excuse for not doing something is that he didn't know? I can't read minds. But then also what you notice is after you tell him, he still don't want to do it. So in one way, he can get Carla every single time by saying Carla didn't communicate it because it is the truth. Carla doesn't always initiate or say exactly what she needs. She does sit back and want the man to notice her or to do it up front. That is something that she's going to have to work on. What I notice about Carla, which I can see how it probably could have happened in her last relationships, she doesn't speak up for herself and tell the guy what she wants. Instead, what she does is she folds into the guy. Then she gets frustrated, and then this is when this passive aggressiveness starts to come out, and she withholds. You see, Juan cleaning the toilet was another form of withholding. It was, "Hey, I'm not getting what I want. I decorated the house. I didn't hear you say how great it looks, how nice it looks. I didn't hear you give the food a compliment. I didn't hear you give me a compliment. I didn't hear you didn't give me no hug and say, 'Baby, thank you for putting this all together.'" None of this. But then when Juan is cleaning the toilet, he wants a gold star. You see, so what Carla does is, you don't want to give me no compliments. You don't want to say thank you to me. You don't want to acknowledge any of the things that I've done to make this day good. Then why should I acknowledge that you cleaning the toilet? Some of you may say it's passive aggressive. That's fine. I can go with that because it is. And what he's saying is, well, I don't know what Carla wants unless Carla speaks up. But this is the thing that we know about Juan. Once she does speak up, he still don't give it to her. So now that he knows that Carla's love language is physical touch and words of affirmation, what have we seen in the previews with Juan? "Oh, I'm not really feeling you, so I can't really touch you and say those things to you." So what was the point of me telling you? What is the point of me telling you what my needs are if you're going to come up with another excuse of why you don't want to satisfy my needs? Juan always has an excuse. "I'm working. I got to go to the gym. You didn't tell me what you needed or what you wanted." It's always an excuse of why he can't do something for someone else, but he's always sitting there waiting for someone to do something for him. He said exactly where he learned it from. He learned it from his mama because he said that's what his mom does. That's how his mom and his dad interact. That his mom is the one always doing for his dad, and it looks like it's very little bit in return. Very little bit in return. Juan starts talking about how he was the one that had to change the sheets, and he does all these things for Carla when he gets home. So I think what he's really trying to show is he's trying to say that Carla doesn't do anything around the house. And I think what Carla's doing is she's being passive aggressive. She's being very, very passive aggressive. And I think she does need to work on that for sure, because that's not the way to solve problems in the house. In one way, I understand the boundaries that she's trying to set. But in another way, the passive aggressiveness that she's actually displaying is not a good way to resolve her problems. The only reason why I kind of give her a little bit more of a pass is because the fact that I kind of figured out who Juan is, and Juan don't want to do nothing. He doesn't want to do anything at all. And then when he does something, he wants a complete gold star for it. Carla told the story on the after party that after the toga party, all the other couples came to their apartment and they had another big party, even with their other castmates. They said the party got so rowdy and so wild that security for the apartment building had to come and kick them out the apartment. They got kicked out of the apartment. So then they had to go out somewhere in Chicago and continue the party at a bar or something. But a lot of people came over to the house. She didn't name names, but I think David was up there. A couple of other people were there at the party. She was there. They all got so wild. In fact, Juan's friend or brother, whoever it was, ended up spending the night over the house as well, partying with them as well. They all had had a pretty good time. So I think Carla, like she starts mentioning in these episodes, she's starting to feel like there's no romantic chemistry going on between the two. And she said one of the things that really has turned her off about Juan is that Juan told her on the wedding day that he's not going to be a traditional husband. This is what he told her. He says, I'm not really going to be a traditional husband. I'm not the person that's going to really check in with you regularly, like texting or calling, or really give you that many compliments. She said, Juan's expectations is that she's supposed to be the wife that sort of tags along. And what Juan told her was that if it isn't, I'm not going to force you to do things with me. That's what Juan said. But if you don't want to do them with me, that's okay. He'll just go along. Basically saying, so if you don't want to do them, he's going to do them anyway. So I think a lot of what we're seeing with Carla, this sort of passive aggressiveness, this withholding of what she's doing, this is stemming from the very beginning of their relationship because Juan has really told Carla who he is. And I think Carla is trying to make sure she doesn't get too close to Juan. I think she's trying to protect her heart. I think she's trying not to be the girl she used to be or she's been in the past, where she gives and gives and gives and doesn't get much in return. Now, do I believe that Carla could be a person that could sit back and be fawned over and adored? I absolutely do believe it. In a lot of ways, Carla would need sort of a balance in her own life. The problem is she's gotten Juan, who's so far to the extreme, she barely can breathe over here. She ain't getting nothing for him. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Nothing's coming from him. Then if we move on to another couple that ain't getting nothing, we got to talk about MM and EKG. MM and EKG, boy, oh boy, oh boy. They decide they're going to have themselves a fiesta party. And the only decoration they got is a Mexican decorated tablecloth to put over the table. That's it. That's it. When I tell you the level of gaslighting that was going on in this episode with EKG, it was phenomenal. Phenomenal. Now listen, what we know about EKG is EKG's all talk, no action. So the amount of gymnastics you have to go through with EKG to get to the part where you're trying to tell him you saying a lot, but you're not doing a lot, your head gonna hurt. Now, EKG was on the after party, and I want to tell you something. Stasha, Keisha Knight Pulliam, and who else was on there with him? I think it was it Carla? I want to tell you, they digged into EKG on the after party. They really digged on him really, really well. They called him out on all his BS. He thinks he couldn't stand the heat with this cousin that MM brought. He getting heat from everybody. And bravo to that cousin, because somebody needs to hold this man's feet to the fire. The first problem we had was this whole conversation over these doggone tacos. These doggone tacos. So let's get this straight, EKG. EKG, MM says, I ordered some tacos for the party. EKG says, I could have done that. So MM says, oh, I didn't know you wanted to make the tacos. You should have, I didn't know you wanted to make the tacos. Oh, I didn't know that. He goes, yeah, I could have made the tacos. They go around and around about these tacos. And she says, well, you know what? You can make the tacos now. And if you want to, you can still make them. He says, no, I told you I could. I didn't tell you I would. What the hell? Why are you starting this fight over the words I could, but I wouldn't? So you just started this little back and forth over the fact now you're going to correct the story over what you could have done, but you didn't do. So what's the point of bringing it up? So when he tells EKG, I could have made the tacos, later on, after MM starts holding his feet to the fire, he said, well, I said I could make the tacos. I didn't say I would. So what are you saying, EKG? You just bragging about the fact that you know how to make fish tacos? Here we go again. A whole lot of bragging by EKG. A whole lot of talk, bragging about what he can do, but he don't do it. So now we got a man who says he has a whole big book of poems for a wife, but we haven't seen one poem. We got a man that says he knows how to do spoken word, but we haven't heard one spoken word. We had a man who says he's an artist, that he sings and plays the guitar, but we barely heard any bars coming from him. Now we got a man saying, I could cook fish tacos. All it takes is some fish and pulling it apart. But yet he's saying he wouldn't want to do it anyway. I'm so sick of EKG. I'm so sick of EKG. And let me tell you something. They talked about this even more in depth on the after party. And let me tell you a little bit more of what EKG says. EKG goes on at the after party and says, well, I wasn't even supposed to be at the party. And I was like, what are you talking about? I had other things to do. I had business to take care of. So they said, well, wait a minute. If MM knew that you had all this other work to do and you had other things to take care of, it makes even more sense that that's why she ordered tacos and didn't ask you to do much. Because here is EKG doing everything for the party, and then you want to come around and you want to complain that she didn't ask you to make some fish tacos that you said you never really done before, but that you could do it if you wanted to do it, but you don't want to do it. And maybe you could have made the fish tacos if you weren't so busy and didn't have a bunch of stuff to do. Boy, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here, EKG. I'm so sick of EKG. I'm done with him. This is why he's calling everybody aggressive, right? Because what he calls aggressive is someone that's going to hold his feet to the party. Don't ask me no questions. Yeah, because you like a thief in the night. You like a criminal who want to come up in here and say whatever you want to say, and you don't want nobody questioning what you say or asking you no questions. EKG wants to tell lies on top of lies on top of lies, and what he doesn't want you to do is ask you no question about these lies he's telling. I'm so sick of EKG. Go check yourself into a mental hospital, EKG, because that's where you belong. Something wrong with you. Something is wrong with you. On the after party, Stasha told him he was passive aggressive. He said, you was passive aggressive and it was unnecessary. Thank you, Stasha. Thank you, Stasha. She said, that was unnecessary what you did. Like I said, Keisha Knight Pulliam told him about himself too. And he said, normally I'm a doer, but right now I know it's a lot of talking. What? What kind of doing do you do? What kind of doing do you do? The amount of contradictions that roll out of EKG's mouth is just astonishing. It really, really, really is astonishing. Now, when his cousin comes over here and starts digging in his ass, and they start asking EKG, name 5 words that you like about each other. And what they do is they decide to ask MM first. Name 5 things that you like about each other. And he said, well, first of all, I told them I wanted someone ambitious and someone not fake, and they gave me both. Someone not fake, you fake. You, the fakest person on this show. Can you believe that EKG said he wanted someone ambitious and not fake? And I don't think EKG's either one. I don't think EKG's ambitious, and I don't think EKG is fake. I mean, real. He fake as hell. He faker than a $3 bill. But anyway, so he describes MM and says, she's beautiful, she's passionate, she's ambitious, and she's aggressive. Aggressive. Trigger, trigger, black woman trigger, black woman trigger. Now, let me get this straight. Now, let me go through the contradictions even in this statement. Remember, Ikeji's the one that's supposed to be so much into his blackness. He's a Mason. He's all these types of things. In fact, on the after party, he's on the after party. Yeah, it was Camille. He's on the after party with Camille, Keisha Knight Pulliam, and Stasha. When they're having this segment, which we're going to get to later, about Camille calling old boy Thomas not having no swag, not having no R&B smoothness, right? Ikeji sits over there and says, well, I can't really give Camille any advice too much, so I know that Tom is a really nice man, but he says, I've always been immersed in the black culture. This is what he said. I've always been immersed in the black culture. I'm very in tune with the black culture. Well, let me tell you this. You can't be too in tune if you don't know that calling a black woman aggressive is a trigger word. How in tune are you? Another contradiction. Here you are supposed to be so much in the black community, so much to be an advocate of black women, and you set up there and use the biggest trigger word of all on black women, which is aggressive. Aggressive. They told him you are out of line, out of the backs. They had to school him. And he said, well, maybe I ought to change the word to assertive. Be honest with you, it shouldn't really be none of that. None of that. Because why are you calling assertive or aggressive? Because she's asking you questions? Yes. That's why he's doing it. He's saying, because I'm getting peppered with questions and I don't really want to ask the questions. And they're like, well, what's wrong with questions? She's trying to get to know you. You only going to be in 8 weeks. You got to make a decision. He said, well, I want it to happen more organically. I want the fact that we can just do this and do that and go out and have dinner. But wait a minute. When the cousin was asking you, why don't you take her out and go to dinner? You told the cousin you ain't got time. Let me go over this one more time. Ikeji says that he doesn't like to be peppered with questions. It's not organic. It feels like an interview. He wants things to be more organic when you're just kind of out and about having dinner. You're just around each other. The cousin said, hey, Ikeji, when you're going to take out and about on the time to have dinner, court her. He said he don't have no time. So you want organic questions to happen on organic dates, but you just said you don't have time for organic dates? Boy, get the hell out of here. I'm telling you, the contradictions are up to here. Up to here. Ikeji tells the story. He said, well, she can be sort of overwhelming with all these questions. And he said, in that moment, I did feel like she was aggressive. Well, why was she aggressive? He said, because earlier in the day, they had a conversation. He said, some of these questions that came up early in the day seem to be the same questions her friends are asking. So I felt that was aggressive, that the questions she asked, she must have told her friends to ask the same questions. Okay, well, Ikeji, let me ask you this. So in an organic situation, Ikeji asked you the question about what were 5 qualities that you liked about her. I guess what we find out is he didn't answer her. So then when the friends came, he's saying that told her friends to ask the same questions. Well, because she never got an answer the first time. So he called that aggressive. He said the very fact that I didn't answer her question the first time, and she asked her friends to ask me the same questions, he felt that he was being attacked and hemmed up. This man, unbelievable. Unbelievable. He said that he felt manipulated. Manipulated how? Because she asked you questions and you didn't answer them. And so her friends asked you the same questions. So you felt manipulated that she got her friends to ask you the questions she wanted answers to. Well, how was she supposed to get to know you? Then this fool, and that's what I'm going to start calling him, this fool starts to talk about, well, doesn't want to ask surfacey questions. You're like, what? Surfacey questions? What are you talking about? I'm telling you, Stasha was all over him. Stasha did a bang up job. She was all over him. And she says, you know what? This is a trigger for me because I like to ask questions. Because we know Stasha's an interviewer. We know that was one of her problems on the date in the first place. So she was all on the side of She was like, well, wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You say that, here's another contradiction. You say that you don't like the interview style. You say that you want more organic questions, but you don't take her on organic dates. Then what you say is that you're not really getting to know her. But if she asks you questions, you call her aggressive, right? So you're saying you're not getting to know her but if she asks you questions, then you're calling her aggressive. And he said, yeah, that's how it is. Unbelievable. He's talking about he doesn't feel like now he's in a safe space. He's saying, oh, I go out of my way to provide a safe space for but in this moment when she's having her friends ask me all these questions, it's not a safe space for him because yeah, guess what? He's getting him to follow these lies. So then they get on him again and say, well, wait a minute. They get him on every single thing, and I was loving every bit of it. They say, wait a minute. If you say you're giving her a safe space, how are you giving her a safe space to even talk and ask questions? Because when she does do it, you call her aggressive. That ain't a safe space. That ain't a safe space. This man is so ridiculous, y'all. So ridiculous. I can't stand him. Something is wrong with EKG. Something is wrong with EKG. And let me tell you, if that's not enough of a contradiction, EKG then goes on to talk about how he's not used to this type of style of MM. He's used to more because he's from the South. Okay. So EKG, you're from the South. We're going to call Texas the South or wherever else he's from. But you just chased a whole show to Chicago, the Midwest. So let me get this right, EKG. When the show was in Houston, you didn't get on the show. You could have met people from Houston, from the South, since you say you like women from the South. But instead, what you did was you dragged your butt up to Chicago chasing a show, got to Chicago where people are from Chicago, started dating people from Chicago, and then say, I'm not used to the flavor of Chicago because I'm more used to people from the South. You the one that took your ass up there. Like I tell you, EKG is always the person to start blaming people for what he don't want to do, what he can't do. It's always somebody else's fault and he don't want to do nothing. So you want a Southern woman because you think the Southern woman is more softer. She's not going to be as aggressive or assertive as a woman from Chicago. But then you were the one that dragged your butt to Chicago to be on a show picking people that were from Chicago. EKG, get the hell out of here. I can't stand them, y'all. I cannot stand them. And if that wasn't enough of a contradiction, when MM got to talk about what she was going to call EKG, she called him smart, laid back, creative, calm, and nonchalant. And he said, well, I disagree with being called nonchalant. I disagree with being called nonchalant. I want to call him all that other stuff anyway, MM. You were being kind. You were being really, really kind because he ain't smart. He's dumb as hell. He ain't laid back. He's passive aggressive. He's not creative because we ain't seen no poem, no music, no nothing. He's not calm because he's sitting up here. He's getting all hype right now. And he's not nonchalant. He does care because he wants everything his way. He's not nonchalant. He does care. Nonchalant people are people who don't care. He does care. He wants it his way. He's out here trying to orchestrate things in the what direction he wants to be. But he took offense of the fact that he called her nonchalant. And then when that girl said, her friend said, well, I take offense that you called her aggressive. Get it, girl. Get it, girlfriend. And EKG had to sit there and say, well, it's not about you. They asked me my opinion. And she said to him, well, we asked her hers. And guess what? He was like this. He was like this. You see, there's another one of the hypocritical moments. He wanted to say he could say whatever he wanted to say about MM and that it was his opinion and he was being asked and he's not here to please them. But when MM speaks her mind, he wants to go over there and have something to say about it. I liked how that friend called him on the carpet. He said, well, wait a minute. You can sit over here and say, we're asking your opinion, but when MM want to give her opinion, you want to be all over her? Yeah, that's what it looks like. That's what hypocrisy looks like. That cousin of him said, you know what? Aggressive women is okay for the right man. And then occasionally guy was getting all in his feelings talking about, well, I know how to be a leader when I need to be a leader. No, you don't. You don't know how to lead and do nothing. Nothing. Nothing at all. He's a whole lot of talk and a little bit of action. No wonder EKG has been single for 12 years. I said it from the very beginning. It was a red flag. It was a red flag. That friend tried to say that EKG was looking for someone perfect. Remember when his friend came on? No. EKG's not only looking for someone perfect, he thinks he's perfect. He never can be wrong. He don't take accountability and responsibility for nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. What a mess. That friend was digging all into him and said, well, if you married, what about health insurance? People on your health insurance and your insurance policy. He ain't thinking about none of that. None of that. I don't know. I don't even know how. I know people said EKG came on here to get followers, to get people to read his book. But EKG's going to come around away from here with some enemies. What woman will want to follow him? What type of R&B? Nobody want to listen to nothing that EKG's putting down. We don't want none of your poems, none of your spoken word, nothing from EKG. Nothing at all. You can keep it. You can keep it. He said that friend, that cousin was asking him, do you see any future that you could fall in love with MM in the past, in the future? He's like, I don't know. I don't know. That friend was not having it. He said, I'm not here to appease you. I'm here to please MM. Well, you're not here to appease her either because you're not trying to please her. You sitting over here calling her aggressive. How is that pleasing a person? You didn't help out with the party. You complained about the food that you could have cooked, but you didn't want to cook. You said you didn't want to be there in the first place because you had other things to do. Then you was mad at MM because she did all the work. You talk about you want a woman from the South, but you ran all the way to Chicago to find a woman from the South. Give me a break. Give me a break. I'm so sick of EKG. I'm really sick and tired of him. I am. And now we're going to move on to Camille and Thomas because, like I said, I'm sick of Camille and Thomas too. Not Thomas. I'm sick of Camille with this swag. I'm really sick of this swag conversation, this cultural conversation, all this going on. And it looked like they brought in another expert, but the expert was not Dr. Pepper or Pastor Cal. It was a sister Camille. And it looks like the sister has done some studying, maybe in college, into Black African-American studies. Maybe this is why Camille thinks she's an expert on Black culture because of her sister. Something now tells me that Camille's identity is she's been trying to get a little bit of it from her sister. I started to put a little pieces of it together, but what's happened with Camille is it hasn't quite translated because even the sister on this lunch date that the sister was with Camille, the sister had to even translate some things for Camille that Camille wasn't able to do for herself. Camille is running around like she is the swag queen, like she is a member of the Black Panther Party, and she's so entrenched in the Black community. And it was actually her sister in this episode who had to school her more on the issues surrounding around, well, what is Black? What is really Black? And why do you hold a key to the gate of Blackness and you don't get to define Blackness? In fact, the sister revealed a little bit more to us that Thomas is a lot like their brother, right? And that's what I said before, because I know Camille wants to run around and act like her own Blackness has never been questioned, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it one bit. Camille is lying. Just like she's lying about having swag, she's lying. I know that she's been questioned. And now that I know that her brother is also in this family and he doesn't necessarily always completely identify as Black, or he doesn't want to choose, that's fine. And then we have a sister who has deeply been involved in probably studying African-American culture. Can you imagine these dinner tables? Can you imagine the conversations at the dinner table with the sister, the brother, and Camille, all surrounding race? This is why Camille is having such a hard time with Thomas, because probably what it's doing is bringing up old wounds and old conversations that Camille and her family have had in their home. You're starting to see it because, and now what Camille is trying to do is Camille's trying to act like when before she may not have been the Blackest person in the room in terms of Black culture. When she's with Thomas, that's what she is now. That's what she is now. And it's almost as if Camille is trying to become her sister. I'm not gonna lie. If When I hear Camille talk, her words don't match what I see about her. But all of a sudden, when I saw her sister and I heard her sister talk, I said, wow, is Camille trying to sound like her sister, but she don't quite know how to do it and how to say it, and she messing it all up? That's what I think, because Camille, I hate to say it, Camille, you are more like Thomas. Now, they end up going to this party, this pool party, and Fashion Sense Camille wears this to the pool party. And I say, once again, swagless Camille, swagless Camille. And they said, let's turn up these drinks. Let's have some drinks. And I was waiting to see what Camille was going to drink. I was looking to see if she was going to go with the brown liquor or the white liquor. Are you going to drink some dark liquor, Camille? Or are you going to drink some Hennessy, some whiskey, some bourbon, some Courvoisier? Are you going to go with some traditional brown liquor for the Black community? But I was surprised to see her sister there. But as the episode started going on more and more, I started to realize that Camille was bringing his sister around to give her some credibility. We started talking about it last week, when one of the reasons we thought Camille liked dark men is because the dark men, the dark Black men, give her credibility. And I'm starting to realize that this sister is also giving Camille credibility. Camille is mad because Thomas is making her look bad. And what she wants is she wants people around her that are going to give her credibility in the Black community. And her sister being knowledgeable about African American culture, because I can tell she studied it, Camille likes that. And then Camille pairs herself with darker men to also give her the appearance of a more immersion to the Black community. And then that's how Camille gets her Black card. And Thomas is coming over here, going to bars that Camille says has a history of racial strife. What are you talking about, Camille? Spill it. She talking about Thomas mentioned a bar that he goes to. And the reason why I gave her alarm was because it's a bar that sometimes has racial strife at it. Girl, do I really believe that? No, I don't really believe it. Was it in the news, Camille? Was it in the news? I don't. Camille got problems, y'all. She got some problems too. I'm not gonna lie. She's not gonna. She go to this party talking about maybe at this party we'll be able to move forward with more of the smooth husband and get more of those smooth and wifey vibes. Girl, go sit down. Camille, go sit down. It don't even sound right when she says it, y'all. That's why I know Camille is trying to hijack the mentality and the voice and the words of her sisters. And when she gets with dark men, she's trying to hijack their skin color and put that on. Who the hell is Camille? Who are you, Camille? She says she likes R&B music and neo soul music. And, they pay attention to the foods that they like. He says, oh, I know that she likes Mexican food and Thai food. And she says she knows that he likes Mexican food and Thai food. So they're talking about how they have gotten to know a lot about each other. And this is when she starts talking about, well, he isn't like the men I normally date. I normally like darker men. He's more lighter. And she likes men that are more loud and more showboaty. There you go. Loud and showboaty. Because then what Camille can do is she can ride the coattails of that man. Camille is a coattail rider. She want to ride the coattails of her sister in the Black community with the Black culture and the Black education and the African American culture. She wants to ride the coattails of a darker complexion male who's loud and showboaty and shows up real large so she can follow behind him. But now the reason why she's so upset, with Thomas is because she can't ride his coattails, right? She can't ride his coattails. She needs that other person to be the one that gives her the credibility and she rides their coattails. But now what she's really concerned about is the fact that I got to teach Thomas. I like people to teach me How am I going to teach Thomas how to be in the Black community? And all these years, I've been learning from everybody else. Goodness, Camille. Why don't you just admit who you are? Because what she's doing is talk about passive aggressive. Maybe that's going to be the 2 words of the episode. Camille is attacking Thomas for what she herself doesn't even have. And so this sister sits down and says, maybe the 2 of you are going to have to need to rewrite how you show up in the world. That sister sat up there and said, you both are biracial. Are you going to show up in the world as a Black couple, or do you even identify as a Black couple? This is shaking Camille to her core because she's got to think about all this. I said it last week that I think one of the biggest concerns with Camille is her having light complexion kids, that she's really, really afraid of that. Camille, for her life, has rode on the coattails of other people who were more immersed in the Black community, and she rode those coattails, and those were the people who kind of taught her to fit in. Oh my goodness. And now you got Thomas over here, who she looks at as a liability because he's not actually going to be able to teach her. What she's afraid of is he's going to pull her more out of the community and the world she's been trying to immerse herself in. So she said, how am I going to learn about more Black places to go to when you don't even know to go? I got to teach you. Camille, all your problems are with your own self-identity. All your problems are with your own self-identity. Wow. All this stuff about how they're so culturally different. And even Thomas is like, I don't see no difference. Girl, you don't see yourself. You and I are the same. You and I are the same. I really don't see that much of a difference. But Camille wants to keep pointing out there's a difference because Camille really wants there to be a difference. She really does want there to be a big difference between her and Thomas, but there really isn't. So every time you tell her there isn't a difference, she gets down on herself because now girl, you ain't got no swag. All this stuff you talking about, it ain't you. It ain't you at all. And then she was so highly offended when Thomas said to her, well, you know what? I would have thought that you would be dating light-skinned men. And she said, why would you assume that? He said, because you light-skinned. I don't know if Thomas really believed that, or if Thomas decided to tell her a little bit about herself. You know, I want to believe that what Thomas was doing was really telling her about herself, pretty much saying, how are you over here discriminating against light-skinned men and you light-skinned yourself? That's what I really want to believe. That's what I really, really want to believe, because I don't think Thomas really believes that. And so I think through their discussion, we come to find out that Thomas is dated on across the board. He's dated white women. He said it sounds like the last time that he dated a Black girl was when he was younger. It sounds like possibly that mostly he has dated white girls. This is what I'm picking up from the conversation, that Thomas has never really dated Black women. Only, he said, his first girlfriend that he dated was African American, or she was Black. After that, it seems as if he has dated white women. Maybe that's another reason why Camille is over here mad, talking about, well, you never really dated Black women. But check it out, folks. Let's say you a person like Camille, who she thinks she's all immersed in the Black community and she's so Black. And then she gets a man who is used to dating white women. And when that man comes over and starts dating her, he said, really? Well, it ain't that much difference. So in a lot of ways, when Camille told Thomas last week that it was almost like he was that she was almost in an interracial relationship, in a lot of ways, that's what Thomas said about her. Because what Thomas said was, I'm used to dating white girls. And now that I'm dating you, it ain't that much difference. Woo! Now we seeing this passive aggressiveness. No wonder Camille tried to tell Thomas that, hey, I'm in an interracial relationship because you're not really Black. Because in a lot of ways, Thomas ain't said it directly, but he kind of told her, you ain't Black either, because I really don't see no difference between dating you and all the white girls I've been dating. It's the same old thing. And let me tell you, Camille's feelings was hurt. Hurt. Like I said, maybe the words of the whole episode is going to be passive aggressive, because we've seen a whole lot of passive aggressive action going on here, and I'm going to start labeling Camille as passive aggressive. I was wondering where all this was coming from. It's passive aggressiveness. That's what it is. I really wasn't with that sister too much. That sister who studies African American studies and culture, she started talking about how it's harder for a light-skinned woman to integrate and date than it is for a light-skinned man, because she was over here talking about, as a man, you get a benefit from it, but a woman you don't. Girl, go sit down. Go sit down. Can't nobody sit over here and tell no darker complexion woman that light-skinned women aren't also getting some type of privilege from their light skin, and the only one getting privilege in the dating world from their light skin are light-skinned men. Girl, sister girl, go sit down. I'm going to tell you, Camille's family, there is a lot of like probably damage, like psychological damage that's gone on in this family over around their identity. Because I know the sister studied a lot of African American culture. It sounds like she did, but some of the stuff coming out her mouth, honestly, like I said, that last part about how it's easier for light-skinned men versus light-skinned women, I was like, girl, that's a bunch of bull crap. That ain't true. Then you hear the fact that they got a brother who doesn't necessarily identify as black. Then you got Camille over here trying to ride the coattails on other black people. This family, maybe that's why the sister went into African American culture, because she really, really wanted to understand. You know, they say there's a difference when you have an interracial or biracial child. They say there's a difference if that child has been raised by an African American mother versus a white mother. And I think Camille and her sister, they all have a white mother and a black male. And when it comes to daughters, I think a lot of their identity comes from their mother. I think there's less struggle with biracial women, biracial females, if the mother is African American. And I think women possibly who have white mothers who they never could, and the mothers could necessarily never identify with some of the issues, I think they struggle more. I think that they struggle a lot more. And I think that's what's going on in this family. I think the girls, the sister and Camille struggled more than the brother did. And I think it came from probably their Caucasian mother probably wasn't able to give them some of the things they need to help them develop their sort of identity. And you really do see Camille struggling with her identity. Camille is trying to make it about that there's a struggle with Thomas's identity, but actually Thomas is very comfortable with his identity. It's Camille that's uncomfortable, and her being uncomfortable in her identity, she's trying to project that uncomfortableness onto Thomas and tell him what's wrong with him. But in actuality, he's actually just fine. Thomas is, like the sister said, Thomas is more like the brother, in which he's satisfied, he's comfortable. It's Camille who's uneasy. She's really the main problem. Camille needs to go have some therapy. She really does need to go to therapy. On the after party, Stasha, remember Stasha also had to deal with Nate. Nate was also biracial, what I remember. And Stasha gave a little bit that that was some conversation also in their marriage, because I think, is Stasha biracial? I know her mom is black. I think that's the situation with Stasha. Stasha's biracial, black mom, white father, but Stasha's more grounded in her identity because she had that black mom. And I think with Nate, it's the opposite. He had a black father and a white mom. And I don't have statistics on it, but maybe some of you do. I think there's more difficulties when that biracial child has a white mother versus when that biracial child has a black mother. But that's just what I think. But a lot to unpack with this couple. A lot to unpack. And next we got to move on and talk about David and Michelle. And they're getting ready for this party. Michelle is getting the charcuterie board all together. We come to find out that these two ain't even talking during the week. They like two passing ships in the night. We know they got different work schedules, but even their work schedules kind of do overlap, because she's a regular 9 to 5 and David doesn't even go to work until like 3 o'clock. So there actually is time where they could communicate, but they're two shits passing in the night. They live in separate bedrooms. They got separate bathrooms. They got everything separate. And we find out that David didn't even come home last night, the night before. He must have went on back and slept in the basement apartment. Or we find, and so when David is talking about how we don't spend much time together and how they don't communicate well, David's like, I left you this note, trying to improve our communication instead of just texting you. I wrote you a hand note. And Michelle said, don't be trying to call me out when you didn't even come home last night. I know our word for the whole episode is passive aggressive, but we don't really need to add no passive to it. We can just call it aggressive. Now, here's a real aggressive woman. This is Michelle. And if you want to call somebody aggressive, she's definitely aggressive with her words. She's definitely aggressive with her words. But Michelle, you over here not wanting to communicate with David, but then you want to get mad at him because you want to keep track of him. Later on in the episode, did y'all see where Michelle got a little bit upset when David said he was working out with Madison, right? On the after party, he says he works out with Madison about 2 to 3 times a week, but Madison also works out with Juan a couple of times a week. So all the guys who like to go to the gym are working out with Madison. But when David told Michelle that he had worked out with Madison, she was like, well, I didn't know you was working out with Madison. He goes, oh yeah, we do. Like, we've worked out a couple of times. We did the calves and stuff like that. And did you see the attitude that Michelle got? So wait a minute, Michelle, you don't want him, but you get an attitude because he worked out with Madison? Make it make sense. You don't want him, but you mad because another girl is over here spending time with him. I know we've been hearing some snippet that's going to be some wife swapping or some things going on. I hope David does cheat on Michelle. I never said that before, but I hope he does cheat on her. I would feel bad for Alan because I really like Alan, but I would be over here cheering for it if David cheats on Michelle. I hope it happens. I really, really hope it happens. They end up inviting these friends over. And then, like I said, the cold-hearted Michelle has a friend come over that she says is supposed to be, how long you known her? She goes, oh, she's my coworker. I've had a coworker from 5 years ago. Her friend had to say, no, we've known each other for 8 years. Girl, Michelle ain't keeping track how long she knows you. She don't even talk to her dog walker she had for 9 years. Michelle is cold-hearted. She don't really have that caring, nurturing spirit. That friend was so upset that she goes, no, girl, we've known each other longer than 5 years. It's been 8 years. Michelle don't care. But anyway, that friend comes over there and starts telling David. David's like, what do I need to do? Because, it ain't going well at all. Nothing is going well. And she's like, well, you know what? One of the things my daddy told me that Michelle's going to be looking for is, how do you enhance her life? Well, maybe one thing he can do is treat her how to be nice to people, how to be kind and considerate. They over here talking about enhancing Michelle's life with material things, houses, cars, all these other kind of things. What about being a good person? One thing I think that David can do to enhance Michelle's life is treat her how to be a nice person. And one thing I don't like about David right now is he doesn't stand up for himself. He lets Michelle run all over him. And I don't know if that's because he came from I don't know what, David sat on here. He said he wanted blonde hair, blue-eyed women because what I said before was David associated blonde hair and blue-eyed with a softer, nicer woman. And I'm starting to realize that the reason why David probably needed a more softer, nicer woman is because a woman that's more rough like Michelle, rough around the edges, doesn't control her tongue, she would run over David. And I think what David says, I need a woman with a softer heart because I'm not the type of guy that's going to fight back. Because David actually doesn't stand up for himself. The kind of stuff that comes out of Michelle's mouth, he really needs to stand up to himself. He needs to tell her about herself. And what I liked about this episode was, guess who had to tell Michelle about herself was David's friend. It was one of the best moments I've ever seen with someone handling Michelle. And I'm going to tell you this. When I saw David's friend, because what David's friend got into was, you're over here talking about David, the fact that he's living at home and saving money for a house. But he said, you know what? You talk about David's behind and David's a loser. Really, you the loser. You sitting over there paying $23.50 a month renting an apartment. He says, I'm winning. I got a mortgage. I only pay $12.50. I pay less than you and I'm building equity. Tell her about herself. And what that friend told her to her face is, you losing. You trying to say that David is losing, but David is over here saving money to be able to afford a house. So in the end, he's ahead of you. In that moment, Michelle's mouth opened up and dropped because you know what she got? She got handled by that man. She got handled by that man. And I'm going to go back to that moment when they were in Mexico and Michelle was talking about, I need my space. Give me my space. And when I say I don't want to be around you, I'll tell you when I want to come around. And she was yapping her tongue like this. And then David said to her, you want some space? I'll give you your MF space. And he walked away. He went to the bar. And remember, in that moment, Michelle's mouth dropped. She humbled herself. She was quiet. And then when David came back, she was more willing to have a more decent conversation, but he shut her up in that moment. That's who Michelle is. Michelle needs a person that's going to shut her the hell up. Because when people dig into Michelle, you know what she does? She shuts up. She shuts up. And when that friend sat there in front of her face and told her, no, you the loser. You the loser. She shut her mouth and she said, oh, that's a good point. I know it is a good point. Carla says that Michelle is two different people. Carla said that when she was on the after party, it was weird watching how Michelle was being so mean and running over David, because when Michelle is in the friend group with the women and they're all around, she's a completely different person. It's like I said, when Michelle was on the after party, I said, who is this Michelle trying to be all nice and congenial when this other mean woman we see on TV? Once again, we don't need to use passive aggressive for Michelle. We can just say aggressive. And Michelle, what she gets from David is not only is David in living in a basement apartment, she doesn't respect David because David doesn't stand up to her. It's actually a twofold thing. She's trying to use the excuse that it's about the basement apartment, but really the part that Michelle doesn't like is that he doesn't stand up to her. He doesn't check her. When he stood up to her in Mexico and told her, you can have your MF in space, I saw her develop a deeper respect for him. When this friend got in her butt and told her, no, you the loser, she had a respect for that friend that she doesn't have for David. Now, friend, thank you for getting in her butt. But until David shows me that he's actually saved some money, then although it's a good plan to stay at home and save money, I don't think that David has saved money. That's the problem I have with David. It's a good plan. It's an EKG plan. It's a good thing to say. But if you actually haven't done it, then what good of it is, right? What good does it do? And that's where I think that there's a missing. People want to argue the point, is it better to stay at home and save money to buy a house? No one's going to argue over, could that be a better thing to do? The problem is that's actually not who David is. David isn't the person who's actually doing. He hasn't even said how much money he has saved. He hasn't even said that he has money to buy a house. In fact, on the after party, he said the reason why his basement apartment looks the way it does is because when he closed his bar, all that stuff in his apartment is stuff from his bar. So when he closed the bar, he had to move all that furniture, the pinball machine, the dartboard, the keg, the everything into this basement apartment. And he said the reason why it's down here is because, oh, this stuff could be worth $1,500. Boy, sell it. Sell it. If it's worth so much money, sell it and save it for the house you're talking about, David. If you're so savvy with money, why wouldn't you sell that equipment, put that money somewhere, make that money grow if you're really trying to save for a house? Why would you have equipment sitting in a basement apartment, getting older, collecting dust, making your apartment look horrible? No, you're not good with money. Let's stop acting like David is good with money and he's making a good financial decision. Nah, Michelle is right. David is not marriage material. But the other thing that Michelle has sniffed out on David is she can say whatever she wants to say. He ain't going to bite back. That's why he wanted a blonde hair with blue eyes, because David doesn't know how to fight back with a woman who has a lip like Michelle. Michelle is aggressive. If we want to talk about a person who's aggressive, Michelle is aggressive. David told Michelle, I like your outfit. It looks cute. And she said, yeah, I put a lot of effort into it. Girl, You are not that fly. You mean another woman walking around talking about her swag is so good? Is there something about Chicago where we just got a whole lot of delusional people living in Chicago? Because Michelle, girl, you're not a fashion runway model either. Michelle thinks she's a fashion model, a beauty queen, everything. I'm not saying it, Michelle. I'm not saying it. There's a whole lot of inflated egos on this season. This season, talking about she gonna be the one to go ahead and dress David now because she don't like the jean shorts and less tank tops. Girl, Michelle. I'm so done with Michelle. I'm really, really done with her. Done. And then we got to move on over here to linebacker Madison and Allen. They falling apart because Allen looked like he's starting to be real done with Madison. So Madison takes him to this stair step and a mountain climbing exercise class so he can build up her abs and calves muscles and all this other kind of stuff. And another fashion model who thinks she's fashion model, but all she does is walk around in workout outfits. Workout outfits. Good Lord. Poor Allen. It ain't no hope for Allen. He run around here. He want acknowledgement. He wants acknowledgement for trying to live in Madison's world and saying, I'm trying to integrate, do things you like me to do, work out, give you things you want to do. And Madison said, yeah, as long as you're doing it for yourself. Don't do it for me because I don't want to give you nothing in return. Let me tell you something. That's what a lot of people would say. If you say, oh, I want to accompany you to the gym. I want to work out because I want you to be proud of your husband. Madison says, don't do it for me. Do it for yourself. Because if you do it for me, then you're going to expect me to do something for you. And I don't want to do nothing for you. Not too much at all. Because really what he's saying is that is what he's saying. He's saying, I'm going to go to the gym with you and do things you like to do. But what I'm hoping is that you'll want to spend quality time with me. And sometimes you'll want some more of that quality time where we can sit at home and just be together. Because she's like, nope, I still want to do the same old thing. Go to the gym, go work out, and then go to bed. But you know what? She made him breakfast. At first I was like, oh, look at Madison making Allen breakfast. But in the end, we realized that she was making him breakfast so she could ship him on out the house so she could plan this surprise birthday party that I know that the producers put her up to. But I'm going to still give her credit for it. She made him breakfast, which was very nice. She also did a surprise birthday party. And what you can tell is that Allen is not used to receiving things from people. He's used to being the giver. So he's very, very uncomfortable receiving things from Madison. And I think that's something that Allen's going to probably have to work on too. And Madison says, I can do some things too. I know how to do some things. Because in a lot of ways, I think Madison's the same way. Madison also is not used to someone doing for her. It's so interesting, but I think Madison is used to being with men who didn't do for her. And I think that Allen is used to doing for women. So you have two people coming to this relationship whereby Madison isn't real comfortable. Madison really isn't comfortable with Allen, who likes to do things for people, and she classifies that as soft. Remember early in the episode, she said that he was a people pleaser, or he was a do-gooder, or that he just does too much for people. And now we find out she's talking about she likes to do for people. So is it that you guys are stepping on each other's toes? What's going on here, Madison? What is really going on? But in the end, she ended up having a nice surprise party. The friends came over, which was really nice. And he said he never had a surprise party before, and he really didn't know even how to relish in it and just really enjoy it. But when they were asking him, hey, what are some of the things you like about Madison? He said she's open-minded, she's emotionally intelligent. He thought that she's beautiful. But he said, you know what? She is on the go all the time. She's always gone. And I really do want a person who's a little bit of a slower pace, who will sometimes want to snuggle with me and give me that sort of affection and things like that. And do we believe that Madison can ever be that person? No, she's too busy running around trying to score touchdowns and get first downs. Madison is too busy trying to get her first downs and touchdowns and flag football and everywhere else. She ain't gonna slow down, not at all. And to come to find out, I don't even think Madison really wants to go to the gym with Allen. I don't think so. I think she says she wants him to work out, but she don't really want to go with him because come to find out the times that Alan was going to the gym, but they weren't even going to the gym together. So what's the point? She says one of the things she wants Alan to do more of is give her constructive feedback, more feedback about her. She says she wants to know if they're compatible at the core. I think Madison is used to basically dating people who more have told her about maybe what some of her flaws are, and because Alan doesn't do any of that, I think she's also kind of not knowing how to react in this situation. I think they're both used to dating very completely different people. And now all of a sudden they're dating each other and they don't really know how to relate. They're too busy trying to relate to each other like other people that they dated. And they're actually not pairing up and relating to each other with they are. This is one couple where I feel like if they would just let their guard down, if they would just sort of, especially Madison, I feel like maybe they really could have had a chance. But it just seemed like they can't. I think they're getting in their own way. A lot of what they're doing is getting in their own way. You know, Alan doesn't end up showing up to this football game. And now Madison is hotter than fish grease. And she said when she get home, she's going to have to tell him about himself. So it looks like we're going to have a big old blowout fight between Alan and Madison later on because she's mad that he didn't show up. This is a couple that has missed each other, but I almost feel like there could have been a chance for them to actually connect, but now they're not going to connect. So I could see how in some ways the experts might have thought that they would have got a good pairing because they probably would have thought that Alan would have given Madison the nurturing that she's been missing in all her other relationships. And Madison would have been able to give Alan the stuff that she said she was missing, like words of affirmation. But in the end, they're both so used to that poor treatment, the poor treatment of other people. When they finally got here with each other, they don't know how to figure it all out together. It's weird. It's almost like their trauma was what they didn't like in their relationship, but they don't know how to operate outside of that trauma. You could really see how these two are clashing over things when the reality is what they're both asking for, I almost feel like they could get. Because I think because Alan is a giver, he would go to the gym with Madison, but Madison doesn't even really invite him to the gym. So she's used to meeting guys at the gym. So she goes to the gym to meet guys, so she never really has to invite the guy to the gym. She's mad at Alan because he didn't go to the gym, but then she doesn't invite him to the gym. So you want a gym rat, but you don't invite him. You rather meet him at the gym so that you don't have to invite him because of what? What Madison are? It's just all so very convoluted. So very, very convoluted. And then you're going to get mad that Alan didn't come to flag football with you, but yet you never really invite him to other stuff. So the one time that he doesn't come, I don't know. These two, I think they got a lot of work to do. I think if they don't make it, which I don't think that they are, they need to do more work on themselves and figure out who they are. Because I think what happens is even though they know what they want, they're not looking at how they're showing up in the relationship. And I think if they don't figure it out, as much as I like Alan, I think there's some things he needs to figure out too. He too could have a problem in relationships because I don't think they've quite figured out who they are and what they need from a partner, which are two different things. So anyway, that's all we got, y'all. That's all we got for this episode of Married at First Sight. Let me know what y'all think about it, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye.